World building time. I'm RSK. I wrote The Adventures of Hemera Nyx in the Galaxy of the Future, the first of hopefully a quadrilogy of sci-fi action adventure adventures of Hemera Nyx. In this book, there is a flashback scene, which I am calling an interregnum, in which the queen, or the Reganto as I call her, sits on a throne of plastic. Why plastic? So this novel takes place a little over 10,000 years in the future. It starts in the year 12,047. So, what does the world of 10,000 years in the future look like? I just made a 10-minute long video that goes into the whole detail of the 10,000 years that lead up to this story, but we don't really need 10 minutes to talk about that. Suffice to say, it was an interesting time. If you can imagine the last 10,000 years of human history, just imagine that again, except with a few differences. And the two big differences are knowledge and resources. So by the time we get up close to when this book starts, or particularly the flashbacks of it, even before the flashbacks start, what leads up to them being in spaceships in outer space, being in home ships in outer space, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of world would it take to build these sort of things? And why and what and where? The last 10,000 years of human history it's been a time. But one thing that's been particularly interesting is that up until even today is that the earth itself has been kind of an open buffet in terms of raw resources, right? And our history has been one of basically extracting those resources like they're going to last forever. There's been no real limits on the extraction of limited resources, in particular, petroleum. In fact, in the world of 10,000 years from now, the time that we live in today is known as the age of plastic because plastic is one of the things that has lasted the longest. And plastic, therefore, is one of the most valuable materials for the people of the future. The history of oil extraction is very fascinating. It used to just be there. You would go to a place, you'd dig a well 10 feet down, and oil would come up. Now, today, and that was only like a couple hundred years ago. Today, we're drilling oil wells that go way down deep, way down into the ocean. That is way beyond the technology that was available a couple hundred years ago. So 10,000 years from now, we have already extracted all of the petroleum that is readily available and most of the petroleum that wasn't readily available. That leaves the future leaders of the thousands of years in a place where it's hard to get your hands on plastic. Now, in landfills and other dump sites, there's a lot of very valuable resources, and those become hotbeds of conflict as people try to extract those resources because you literally can't get them anywhere else in the world, not without the massive infrastructure that we have today, an infrastructure that runs on petroleum. So without petroleum available as fuel and only having the plastic remnants available, labor becomes an issue. The structure of repression becomes the law, basically, and plastic becomes as valuable as gold, if not more so. So to answer that one question, the reason why the Reganto's throne is made of plastic is because plastic is super valuable, a technology from the past that they learned how to manipulate and make a throne out of, but it is a rare and valuable resource for what plastic does, because plastic is an incredible material. It is a miraculous material. And we all hate plastic not because of what it is and what it does, but because of our overuse and our waste and our being poisoned by it, basically, through microplastics and all the other crap that leaches out of plastic. It's killing us and it's killing the planet, but it's also a miraculous material. That's why we use it everywhere. And that informs a lot of the power structures and world building in the history of the Hemera Nyx universe. They, 10,000 years from now, have the benefits of not all of our knowledge and science advancements, because a lot of it is lost over time, but enough of it to point at these deep fundamental forces of the universe that we've only discovered through particle accelerators and quantum physics and all of these really deep structures of the universe that we're gleaning now with the height of the age of plastics power and technology and all of that sort of stuff. A lot of that's still available 10,000 years in the future. And that leads to the discovery of the graviton and gravity manipulation, which is the final key element to making this sci-fi world happen. But because this society developed without the benefits of petroleum that replaced labor in our society, they still rely on human labor for most of what they do. They don't have cars like we have cars. They don't have tractors like we have tractors. They don't have distribution channels. They don't have all of the little things that we know and work on and live as a sort of fundamental aspect of our existence today. They don't have the resources available like we do. Instead, those resources are highly concentrated in a select group of people who will do anything to keep control of those resources, which leads to a society that is super structured, super patriarchal. It is they're monarchies, they're dictatorships, that they are rigorously enforced social classes because they don't have gasoline to run the engines of their society like we do today. So you end up with this sort of techno-futuristic, but also societally regressive civilization in which they are building massive home ships that can house 40, 50,000 people each using gravity technology to construct and then manipulate gravity through gravity tunnels to explore the universe. While at the same time, most people are still living a sort of more substance based serfdom, if you will. That is the justification for that structure, the social structure, and it's the justification of how they somehow managed to be more technologically advanced than we are today, while also not enjoying the benefits of our advancing social society. In the same way, in fact, they rediscover genetic technologies, but because they are the people of the future and they don't have the same morals that we have today as humanity, because all of their power is concentrated in the hands of a few, there is runaway genetic experimentation on humanity too, and that has some really negative effects that play out. And by the time this happens, it's mostly a relic, but it does have impacts on people. In fact, Hemera Nyx has something like that, which I'll talk about later. Anyway, that's kind of a basic overview of how I arrived at a civilization that lives 10,000 years in the future, that is a highly repressive monarchy with very intense social structure classes, labor emphasis on humans instead of machines, and why a throne of plastic would be really awe-inspiring for them when it would just be cheap and ridiculous for us. The Adventures of Hemera Nyx in the Galaxy of the Future, available on Amazon and Audible. Audible? Audible. Go buy it.